Alright, got all the parts for Speedy's transmission back from the machine shop that I work at, and oh boy was there a lot of work they needed. Of course, the big ticket item was the spun bore in the front of this case, so we milled that out. And built a sleeve and pressed that in. That returned that ID to the correct ID for the input bearing. We got a new one of those pressed on. Just need to press that bearing in, and it'll be good to go. Fortunately, though, I was not able to find another made in the US bearing. That was had to go to resort to a made in China bearing for that. The number on that, the input bearing for this Borg T8D-1 transmission, input bearing for that is a National 209, which is the modern equivalent for this Federal 1209. Got that done and taken care of. Next, we had to build new bushings for the clutch fork, or clutch throwout fork shaft. The old ones were roasted. But those were a major pain in the behind, because tiny little thin-walled things. Ended up having to make this tool to get them in, just so they didn't crumple as we were putting them through. Had to build the clutch throwout fork shaft up, because it was all worn down from that as well. But that ended up pretty nice. We were even able to save the old Ford part number on it. The camera's not letting me pick it up. We decided not to do anything with the bent shift fork or throwout fork, just because it's cast. We didn't really want to mess with it for fear of breaking it. I think I was able to braze that up, and it turned out beautifully, because that's where that spun front bearing had munched through the case. Yeah, that goes like so. That's all taken care of. They'll get a new old stock clutch throwout bearing, replace the old one. Knock things over, make a mess. And it came in this awesome old box. Definitely be holding on to the old one just because it's pretty cool. That's all that wrapped up. Had to rebuild the pin that goes between the clutch fork and that pins the clutch throwout fork to the shaft. That was entertaining to make that one several times. these shift gate or the shift forks themselves are way worn down, so we had to weld those up and then machine them back up to out to size. To do that on all three of them. My uncle's the one who actually figured out why it had such an ungodly amount of wear on those. It's because it was a yard truck. It sat there with the end of this shifter sitting there vibrating all day long, every single day. And it just slowly munched away at that. I also had to build up this locating slot in the shifter itself for the exact same reason. It was incredibly worn. In fact, when my dad and I went to actually pick up the truck, I just reached into it, grabbed the shift lever and wiggled it, you know, to check if it was in neutral before we shoved it up on the trailer with the little tractor we had there. And I reached in, I wiggled it back and forth, and it felt like it was in neutral. And we started pushing on the back of the truck with the tractor, and it wasn't moving, and it wasn't moving, and it wasn't moving. We were kind of starting to panic a little bit because we were like 6 hours away from home. That was the only piece of equipment we had there. And I reached back in, and lo and behold, it's actually down in third. It was just so worn that it felt like it was in neutral. So got all that taken care of. Got new bearings for the countershaft. This cluster gear rides on. Put the new old stock, that one I think might be in the original Cosmoline. That's of course to replace these guys. Had to build the one of these two thrust washers that runs there. Had to build the one of them up with brazing, mill that back down. Turned out quite nicely. Of course, the Welch plugs for this PTO casing were a pain to get a hold of. They're just so small, nobody stocks Welch plugs. And these bores are way too shallow for the regular size, the regular cut plugs that everybody uses now. I got new seals for the two PTO shafts. They run in there. They are CR 207. 207 seal. There are two of them. Got new output seal for it. It's a whatever that is. I'm sure I'll mess it up if I try to say it. The precision. Pretty easy to get a hold of. New bearing for in there, where the output shaft lines onto the input shaft, and output bearing, which is a National 307. Not 100% certain where I put down the original output bearing. Set that down somewhere, forgot it. It's probably down at the machine shop. But I believe that replaces a Federal 1307, but I could be wrong. The 307 National is the one that cross-references to it. This, thankfully, the bushing in it's still intact, no awful amounts of wear, because you can't actually replace just the bushing in that. Okay, future gears and stuff here from after I've already finished putting away stuff from filming. I also have to tear through this parking brake assembly. Shouldn't be too bad. I don't think they ever adjusted it, so that's good. Can't be that worn in the friction. Right? Back to the rest of the video. Also got paint. Got the Gliptol for inside of the case. That is way expensive, so let's hope it works well. Got this stuff for the various components that go up into the cabin, or like that back casting, are all painted black. Then I've heard from a couple different sources that this VHT SP125 dark Ford blue is the correct color for these old 40s flathead engines and transmissions. Don't know if that's correct or not. Still need to get the primer and top coat for that stuff. It's about all the new parts. Then this is the tin cover they had over this clutch inspection access panel. Apparently I cannot speak English today. That's not correct. Should be a little hooked one that slides over those. This almost looks like an old data plate off something. It has 2 mounting holes. Almost looks like it's got a background of black paint, but I can't find any writing on it. And this broken off bolt was stuck down in that. Pulled that out down at the machine shop. Fortunately, it's not just a regular bolt, it has that head. And I've thrown it on the floor. Those two can't find it, or little tin cover is obnoxiously expensive online, and can't even find that bolt. Fortunately though, that's why we have parts trucks. Now, of course all the stuff's in the way on this side. Door latch on this side doesn't work. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with caved in cab back. But, oh, there's the lower pivot we're looking for down there. There's the correct plate up there that I'm looking for. That's weird. Little tin shield. See the witness marks of one on the old plate, but huh. Not a piece I've seen in any of the books either, and that's obviously factory. How cleanly it's stamped. One clutch access cover. Clutch doesn't even look horrible in there. Other than, you know, being horrendously stuck. Now to get it. Pull that in there. Apologize for how bad the wrench looks. Been working on something with a bad starter button. And yes, the bad starter button machine will make it onto the channel eventually. There you go. Better than that. Bottom of the camera just broke. Oh well. Tried to disintegrate. Yarg. There you go. Don't worry about that clutch cover. I'll put the little tin plate inside put on Speedies over it. So I do now have plans for this truck and plans for this engine and transmission. There's our lovely pseudo bolt thing. Got her bent out of it. Look or feel broken even. That's... Ouch. I guess I just punched the parking brake. There we go. There's our screwball little bolt with a peg head. Back. All gone wrong. That down before I close it. Putting that in there so it's not just an open hole. Great success. Everything I needed. So, now all that stands between me and reassembling this is lots of wire wheeling of parts. Then I'm ready to lay paint down and I can start reassembling things again. So hopefully that should be the next video. Either that, or I cracked into this can of worms. Or hopefully it's not a can of worms. Fortunately they did have it full of grease, which slightly concerns me. But I'm hoping it's because that pinion input seal's leaking. It's leaking. And I had thought that they had just built a little 2-speed transmission gearboxy thing, put it on the front of that axle. No, that would have been far too easy. This whole assembly here is a planetary clutch. So you can have it in regular, just running as a differential, or when you kick it down into low gear, kicks it through this planetary system, which I would have thought it would be simpler just to make a 2-speed gearbox, but I guess not. So either that, or reassembling the transmission with the next video. Thanks for watching.